For those of us who've been playing the game for quite a while now, it's pretty well understood which builds are good for different aspects of the game, such as those used for farming, builds that players dedicate to leveling up to 99, and those that are used for torch farming when running the Ubers. There are a lot of builds that can be used to clear the Ubers. However, there are some that are seen as more meta than the rest to clear the Ubers both very quickly and efficiently, but also very safely as well. So in this video, I'm going to go over what are some of my favorite meta builds for running the Ubers. These builds will not be ranked in any order, such as my favorite, the fastest, or the most fun, because each of them offers something different and unique for different players to enjoy. Also, as I mentioned as well, these are builds that I've showcased on the channel so far. And if there's some additional off-meta builds that you feel are worth trying, leave your thoughts and ideas down in the comment section below, as I'd be happy to check them out to add more interesting builds to my list to use for running the Ubers. With all that said, let's get into the video. To start off this list is one that you all knew would be among the top builds, one that has been growing on me quite a bit, and that is the Smiter. This build is amazing for a variety of reasons, but one of the best things about this build is how versatile the gear can be, both in its budget and endgame version setups, and still be incredibly effective either way. Because Smite has a guarantee to hit, the main focuses for the build are Crushing Blow, Open Wounds, having enough points into Dexterity for max block, and having high resistances, and all the remaining gear is up to the player's discretion on what they want to prioritize the most. There's no one way to build up either the budget or the endgame setup, which makes this build a great choice for all players to use for torch farming, regardless of the wealth in the game. And that is something that has helped me to appreciate this build more over the years. While it's still not my favorite Uber build, I've grown to appreciate it more because it's a build for any player to pick up, gear it up with the remaining items that you had from other builds, and still be able to hold its own without feeling that you're being handheld during your run. And once venturing into the endgame setup, this build becomes a breeze to be able to get through the Ubers to collect your torch. For more on this build, I've made both an endgame and budget version of the Uber Smiter, as well as delved into 3 different weapon options for each build setup. That way it helps to open up more options for more to play with this build. I'll have all of the videos linked down in the description below. The next one on my list is one that I feel goes very underappreciated, and more players should give it a chance with, being the Fury Druid. I really like the shapeshifting builds in this game, and the Fury Druid is one that I've always enjoyed playing because 1. I prefer melee builds over caster ones, but 2. It has a good mix of everything that you'd want in a great Uber running setup. When buffing with battle orders from CTA or Call to Arms, you get your health boost for yourself and your mercenary. But once you shapeshift into a werewolf, you get an additional health boost to increase your survivability. And if you want to increase it even more, you can use Oak Sage to take your health even higher to ensure that you don't have to worry about anything coming close to one-shotting you. However, ideally you'd want to favor more of Heart of the Wolverine for the additional damage. But for those who may have concerns against Lilith and Mephisto, if you have even 1 point into Oak Sage, with all of your plus to skills gear, it can be the safety net that some may need to get through those Ubers specifically. Then switch over to Heart of the Wolverine for the easier to manage Ubers. Paired with his survivability is his damage output, which can start adding up from a few factors. I prefer using Death, but also buffing Feral Rage for the Life Leech and IAS, then unleashing Fury and watching as all of the damage quickly adds up and clears the Ubers easily. If you pair yourself up with a good mercenary, this can be quite a quick Uber clearing build. If you are interested in seeing this build in action for a full run, I'll have my video showcasing my endgame Fury Druid clearing the Ubers linked down in the description below. Moving on to the middle of the pack for these builds has been my favorite one to use, which is the Frenzy Barbarian. What I enjoy about the Frenzy Barb is with him being a barbarian, you get the skills to increase his survivability, such as with battle orders, shout, as well as natural resistance, but you also get a 2-for-1 aspect with Frenzy that plays similarly to adding Feral Rage with Fury from the prior mentioned Fury Druid, just without the native Life Leech. Each hit from Frenzy adds even more movement speed, as well as attack speed, and to make Frenzy even more deadly, the Barbarian can do what no other character can: dual wield one-hand weapons. This alone can make this build incredibly dangerous for going up against the Ubers. Pairing the right weapons together can add to any aspect that this build needs, especially damage. My go-to is using Grief with Last Wish, as Grief is a tried and true staple for melee builds, with its potential for flat 400 damage and up to 40 IAS, or increased attack speed. But pairing it with Last Wish for its Might Aura, Crushing Blow, Fade proc for increased survivability and damage reduction, as well as the Life Tap proc, makes taking this build through the Ubers feel unstoppable. Though I have not made my favorite Frenzy Bar build guide on this channel yet, using the paired Grief and Last Wish, I did take a version using Berserker Axes with 2 incredibly powerful weapons, the Runewords Beast and Death, of which were a great combo to help my Frenzy Barbarian get the torch without a second thought. That video will be linked down in the description below. The second to last build is the only build on this list that actually is a support build. being the Summon Necromancer. This was the first build that I played back in the early 2000s when the game Diablo 2 originally came out. And to this day, this build is very OP for Uber running. Hell, I even had a one-item Summon Necromancer only using a teleport charge amulet to reposition the revives, and he was able to clear the Ubers, showing just how powerful this build is without needing gear. That video will be linked down in the description below. What helps to make this build so powerful is all the support that this build gives to its summons, being the skeletons and the revives, as well as all the curses such as amp damage and decrepify. And with the 3-minute window to use your revives, as long as you have a good supply of the ones that you desire, that will be more than enough time for either the minis or ones in Uber Tristram. For the gear, the staple weapon is to use Beast, as the Fanaticism aura helps to increase the IES of the skeletons and the revives to attack faster. But so long as you use gear to help with your FCR or faster cast rate, plus the skills, and help with survivability, you should be good to go. The revives to focus on are of the Blunderbore family. As in Hell, they have a 25% chance of crushing blow, and they also have a chance to smite whatever they're attacking. There's plenty of places to find these monsters to kill and revive for use in running the Ubers, which is why this staple character build is one of the best to be able to use, on top of it not needing to be endgame focused to be so incredibly effective and fun. To check out this build in action when collecting a torch, I'll have my endgame Uber Summon Necromancer build guide linked down in the description below. Last, but certainly not least, the Mosaic-Sin. To say this build shook up the top spot for some players to go to use for an Uber build is a complete understatement. The runeword Mosaic opened up the martial arts in to become a viable, playable build again, as it allowed for 100% of the charges to be kept after use, so long as you continue to use them without going past around 15 seconds without use, to then just need to charge them up again with your desired elemental damage effects. This build became a huge spectacle build to play, as each charge had its own animation that, paired with the other levels of charges, would make for interesting patterns that not only did damage at melee range, but also gave some AoE damage as well. And with the changes for next hit delay for some of the charge up skills that came into patch after Mosaic was introduced, this build has become even more powerful and deadly. However, some got unlucky with their graphics cards not liking this build because of the light show. Mine luckily escaped complete destruction from how much I played this build when it was first being used. However, with the prior Uber run record being held by a Smiter, the Mosaic-Sin came in and broke the record, making it then the fastest build, which helped it to have some legs for a while, and since then, it's not seen much play, but it's definitely deserved its shine and recognition amongst the best of the Uber builds. This build can handle the Ubers both in the endgame setup as well as the budgeted version. However, the idea of it being budgeted with the runes needed to make the 2 mosaic claws, to many, keeps it from being a true budget build. Dual mosaics are mandatory for this build concept to be able to work effectively, but the rest of the gear can still be quite cheap to be able to get through the Ubers without problems. I'll have both my budget and endgame versions of the Mosaic-Sin clearing the Ubers linked down in the description below. And that's going to be it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I really enjoy testing out different builds to be able to get through the Ubers, and it's great to see so many trying out and continuing to improve upon these staple meta Uber builds. For those who may be interested in my favorite of the more off-meta builds to be able to use for torch farming, make sure to check out my video discussing my 5 favorite ones that I've tested out so far, of which are all amazing with survivability, clear speed, and are just as fun as the ones that you saw in this video. But they are more sleeper type of builds that players don't seem to play as much, or even at all. And I couldn't recommend them enough if you want to add in something different to your rotation for fun Uber running builds. That video will be linked down in the description below. Thank you guys for making it this far into the video. Again, I hope you enjoyed a look over of all these fun meta builds that can handle the Ubers. If you like this kind of content and want to see more, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to be notified whenever a new video comes out.
Come on. Come on. Come on then. There you are. There you are.
And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave it a like. Other than that, hope you're all staying safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.